Welcome back to another episode of Build Your Own Fairy Tale. Today, it is just me. It is a solo episode, and I wanted to do something that I really enjoy with some other creators that I follow, and that is when they share like this detailed behind the scenes about something they just tried, and they share the good, the bad, the ugly, everything that went with it. So I thought I could dive into, I just recently took part in my first ever collaboration. So I've connected with someone and she was hosting this collaboration over the summer. And I said, you know what? I've never done one. Seems like a low enough lift. I actually have a 20-minute mini course that I put together and have never shared. I've never promoted it. It's not something you can buy from me. It's not on my website. So I've got the perfect thing. I'd love to share it. Let's give it a try. Let's see how it goes. So that is what I wanted to dive into today, the lessons learned from my first ever collaboration. And I'm going to share some good and some bad. And I don't want this to feel like it's not intended to be a rant. It's intended to be my reflection on what worked well. And because I'm a systems person, the things that I observed and things that I want to think about moving forward. And I hope you will think about as well if you were to take part in something like this in the future, or if you're to launch your own sort of collaboration effort. So here we go. So first up, I mentioned I received an email from this woman who I was already part of her list. I had met her, we had connected, and I thought, okay, great. This seems like something I can do. It's easy enough. And everything was really well organized. I liked how she laid it out. It seemed easy. It was like, here are the 5 steps you need to do. Here's the timeline. Cool. You know me. I was on board with something that was very organized and put together and made it easy for me to participate. So that worked great from the start. As things got into motion, I did have a little bit of confusion, right? When I first submitted my topic, I had everything together. I was great. Here's the idea. And then when they came back about a month or two later, I was like, what did I say my topic was? Like, I couldn't remember, right? So I needed them to tell me, here's what you submitted. And they did eventually. It just wasn't part of that very first email. So that's one thing. I would remind my participants, here's why you're here. Here's what you said you were going to do. That was a lesson learned for me if I were to launch something similar. And second, I said they were very organized. They shared a timeline. At one point, something in the timeline, again, this is ahead of launch. Publicly facing, the launch was this huge success and everything went smoothly. But there was something in the timeline that said, hey, these assets are going to be ready on this date. And of course, I put it into my Asana calendar and said, okay, now when that date came, I need to go check. And they weren't there. And I was like, that's interesting. And a couple days later, they showed up. But there was no, hey, sorry for the delay. There was no heads up. Things are taking a little longer than expected. It just happened a few days later. And I thought that was interesting because they made an effort to share the specific timeline. And hence, I made the effort to mark my calendar. So again, while it happens, we are human and things don't go to plan. People do plan around them if you share at times, not everyone. So I find it nice to acknowledge, hey, we're running a little bit behind, or sorry for the delay. Just something to say, look, we know this didn't come when we promised. So that was a takeaway I had. But again, I want to normalize the best laid plans, right? Things won't ever go 100% according to your plan. And it happens even in a well-organized launch. So don't beat yourself up over it, but maybe you want to acknowledge that the timelines have changed. So then come launch day, everything was submitted. I downloaded my assets. I got things out there. I had already planned my emails, my social media posts, and now we are live in launch. And so I said, okay, I'm going to be promoting and sharing with my audience. I want to know what's going on as well from the other creators, the other contributors. So not only am I going to go see what's of value for me in there, but also want to see how are other people delivering it. Because I had to come up with a whole new method for me to deliver my mini course, right? I had to go into Flowdesk and purchase checkouts. And so you could enter the code. That was something I hadn't done before. And I learned because I needed to do it for this collaboration. So I wanted to see what other people were doing as well. Now, when I went in, did I download all 16, 17? No, that would be crazy sauce for me. But I did go in and saw 3 or 4 that I was like, those look interesting. I feel like I could take some value out of those. So let me go in and see what these people are doing. And so for me, my approach is I go in, boom, 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 sign up, and I put it on my list to review later. I'm not sure if you have the same style, but these things are only open for a certain amount of time before you won't have access anymore. So I wanted to make sure I got the goodies and I had them in my hands to use when I needed. So I went in, like I said, 3 or 4 different courses, different products that were offered in this collaboration I signed up for. Do I remember who they were? Do I know their names previously? No, but I was like, oh, this looks interesting. It's about the pitch. This one looks interesting. It's about marketing. I honestly don't even remember the topics, but they looked interesting to me at the time. So I signed up. Minutes later, I have a flurry of emails in my inbox and I don't know which is which, right? I don't remember the people's names are coming through and I don't know who's sending me what. So I'm not sure to look for Jane Smith for marketing or look for Joe Schmo for something else. Like, I just know there's now emails in my inbox and I need to dig through them. Okay. So that's kind of annoying. Of course, I wanted to go back and update mine to reflect this learning, but that's a lesson learned for another day. But I'm now talking about the client experience. So I got a lot of emails. Some people sent one email, great. And I think that is how mine was designed, which I think is simple. Other people had to send me like 3 emails. 1 to confirm my opt-in, 2 to say, here, go sign up for my platform on Thrivecart, or go over here to sign up to access my thing. And then the third one was like, here's the thing, right? So I didn't love that, sending 3 emails when it could have been 1. So that's something that I observed. Again, as a systems nerd, these all come like second nature to me, and maybe they don't bother you, but it's something that I will definitely be thinking about if and when I do this again. And then, yeah, anybody who required me to go sign up for yet another platform, I was slightly annoyed with, because I just wanted the thing, right? You told me I could get a free course, a free thing, a free PDF, like just give it to me. Don't make me go sign up for another platform that I'm not going to be using. So, things to think about if and when you are sharing something like this. I also had this little buyer's remorse of like, I signed up for Flowdesk so I get the checkout and use the code so people could say, okay, great, this should be priced at this dollar amount, but I'm getting it for free. Awesome. I feel good. And so that's great. I was very proud of myself, and I'm excited that I now have that ability or that capability with my services and my products. But not everybody was doing that. Some people were just like, here's the thing, or go into my other system, like I mentioned. And I didn't love that. I didn't love that inconsistency. As the user, as the quote buyer in this free collaboration, I wanted everything to work the same. Again, something to think about. If we're launching or we're contributing, it's a different point of view. It's a different perspective than the person who is on the receiving end. So that is why I am reflecting and sharing. If you are part of this, if you are launching something, things to think about. Also, one minor thing, again, this is like my OCD and really type A coming out, but the leaders of this collaboration shared promotional assets, as they should, so that we as the contributors could all promote it easily, consistently, and share it with our audiences. But I mentioned my type A, and when I'm posting something to my Instagram, like I want it to go and look cohesive with my branding. I don't want it to be in your purple when it should be in my teal or my pink. I know this is a little extra. So I had to do my own little makeshift editing in Canva, which I did. And whether or not they love that, I don't know. But it's something I would consider if I were sending it. And one of my participants to promote consistently, but within their brand, I would like to give them sort of guardrails, but with the flexibility to adapt to their own branding if they so choose. Now, the flip side of this is the branding going to look and feel a little different when they get into it with the purple versus the teal? Maybe, but that is how I chose to promote. I wanted it to look like me, even though it was something separate and different. Okay. And then one more, when we signed up, there were very clear rules about how when people opt into your free product, your free service as part of the collaboration, that you cannot automatically opt them into your email list. They have to choose, right? So they get their free thing automatically. And then if they're like, yeah, Kristen sounds cool, I also want in on her email list, let me check this box, which is how I set mine up. However, as I was going through and quote purchasing these other freebie items for myself, I noticed not everybody had that set up, right? Some people I was automatically going to be now receiving their emails, and I am. So I didn't love that. So here, with all of that being said, let me share my key lessons, my key takeaways from this experience. So the first one, consistency matters, okay? This matters in the tone through which we are talking about this as a collective, the sender name, the delivery method, how people check out, multiple emails versus just one. Like all of this to me is something that can be shared from the top down. Are people going to follow it all? Possibly. But it can be shared from the top down. Like you must deliver in one email, you must have that redemption code, whatever it may be. I think there should be some rules and guidelines so that the end user journey is the most consistent it can be across the board, especially when you're talking about multiple collaborators, okay? My second lesson, follow the rules, right? Your leaders, whoever's launching this is putting it together and setting guidelines and hopefully sharing them with you. It is your duty to respectfully follow those guidelines. So if it says you may not opt someone into your list without them electing to, don't opt them in. One, you're not following the rules, so I don't know what kind of cops are coming after you. But two, like, you're actually doing yourself a disservice because you're going to clutter up your list with a not solid lead, right? You're going to be sending people who aren't going to open, mark you as spam, get rid of you. So it's actually not going to help you. It might help you in the short term, feeling good, like, oh my gosh, how many numbers did I add to my list? But long term, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. So just play by the rules, okay? And if the people are coming in for your thing and they end up liking you because now they're in your orbit, they're going to get on that list eventually. So I would play the long game. I wouldn't play the short game. Follow the rules. And number 3, simplicity always wins, okay? I would not overcomplicate this. I did not build a fancy funnel. 1, because I don't have any fancy funnels to over nurture. But 2, simplicity is always going to win, okay? Don't overcomplicate things. They signed up, they raised their hand for the free thing, give them the free thing. Hopefully it delivers value. They love you. They come back for more, and then they're going to be there. Okay. But simplicity is going to trump a confusing experience every single time. So give them their one thing that they asked for, let them love it, and they will come back for more. Hopefully you're somewhere they can find for more, but they will come back for more. And last but not least, not only am I a systems type A person, but I spent close to 15 years in corporate America. I worked in corporate communications and I sent a lot of emails to a lot of people. Like at one point in time, I was responsible for a newsletter that went to 160,000 global employees weekly. Okay. So do you think I had the power to just edit, create it and hit send on my own? No, that bad boy went to at least 10 people every week to look at it. And then inevitably there was still an error or two at times. But my point being, I always like to make sure someone else is looking at it. I'm reviewing it. I'm checking links. Even though I hated that at the time, it was really slowing me down, right? I couldn't do anything on my own. I do appreciate how that experience has now shaped me, and I am more cognizant of reviewing and testing my links and making sure someone else looks at it just for a different perspective in case, I'm too close to it and I totally missed that something doesn't make sense or that there's a typo. So while it was a pain in the rear end back then when I was just trying to get my email out the door, I do appreciate everything that experience has taught me. And I love being able to bring that polish, that level of professionalism to my creative clients today and helping them show up and looking like the true professionals that they are. So with all that being said, you don't need to be a copy expert, a tech wizard, or a systems pro, but you do need some clarity and the ability to think about, hey, what's the client experience going to be? Let me shift for a second and think about their perspective and not just mine, okay? This is what I help clients do, especially in my VIP weeks. We worked with 17 Hats specifically to say, how can we make this client journey simpler, easier, automated, clear, so that it's easy for me to manage and it's easy for my client to know what's happening next. In all, am I glad I did this collaboration? Absolutely. I'm always happy to participate in a new business endeavor and learn something new, share with my audience, hopefully meet some awesome new people in the process. So I'm very excited that I was able to participate in this collaboration. The jury is still out. Like I said, I'm playing the long game, and this collaboration just went live and completed in August. So the jury's still out if any of the people who downloaded my mini course are going to stick around and, we can be in each other's orbits. But I am excited to say that I completed my first collaboration. I consider it a success, and I'm walking away with some new assets to review from my fellow contributors, as well as some lessons to consider and take with me as I move forward in my business endeavors. So let this be your reminder to audit your own onboarding and launch experiences that you purchase or that you provide to your clients. And as a reminder, again, there is no shade here. This was all in the spirit of reflection and wanting to share because, again, I love when the creators I follow or the business owners I follow share their behind the scenes experience because I feel like there's always something to learn from each other. You may not be doing the same thing or part of the same type of collaboration, but hopefully the words that I've shared with you give you something to think about the next time you are trying something new. And that's all I have for today. We'll be back in another 2 weeks with a brand new episode, so don't forget to hit subscribe or follow from wherever you're listening so you don't miss out. And if you know someone who may benefit from this episode, please go ahead and share it with them. Last but not least, thank you for being here. I'm not giving up on my dreams, and I hope you won't either. I'm Kristen Latini, and this is Build Your Own Fairy Tale.